Hello, everybody. I'm Geeta Natkani. I am totally trying to not look at the spider that is hanging off of my light right now. Because today I'm here to answer your questions. You have questions, I have answers. And today it's Ask Me Anything about coaching, the craft of it, the difficulty of running a business that's so deeply personal, what it's like to do it day in, day out, how to set boundaries. You have some really great questions that have already come in. And I would like to see if any of the questions that have come in aren't the question that you wanted to ask. Now's your chance to go pop them in the comments so I can get to them. Let's do this. Yeah. I love this music. How funky is this music, right? All right. If you are watching me live, give me a big old hashtag live and tell me today, do you have a question about coaching? You can ask me anything coaching related. So if you have a question, pop that into the comments. And if you've been a coach for a long period of time, or whether you've been a long time coach or you're just getting started, if you have an insight about coaching, that would be an amazing thing for you to share with this community as well. So that's just a really great way to cement your own insight and then to add to everybody else's growth, which is amazing. Now, many of you cannot make it to this live. I know, because you've sent me messages telling me I can't make it and I have so many questions. Send me the questions and we'll do another Ask Me Anything in the future, or come back and ask your question right here in the comments. If you're watching the replay, give me a hashtag replay. Ask your question in the comments and I'll do my best to come back and engage with you and answer your question as much as I can in writing. And if it's just too long, then we'll just do another live. Make sense? All right, let's get started. Who is question number one? All right, so it's Darden. I hope I'm saying your name right. Darden Alexander. How to simplify business, how to get the results that I want and expand online with my programs without feeling like I'm burning out or sacrificing my well-being trying to do it all. If there was ever a sign that you're in the right place, Darden, this is it, because this is literally what Impact with Influence was designed to do, because I had all of your questions. So I just want to say you are on the right track, friend, because you are asking the right question. And that is really I would say 60%, it's more than half the battle, is just orienting towards the right question, because a question is a signpost. Has everybody realized that yet? Like, a question is the thing that points you in the direction. So if you ask a vague question, if you ask a sloppy question, if you ask like kind of like not a stupid question, because as you all know, if you've been following me for any length of time, I love stupid questions because they slow your thinking down. And I've done a whole other training on that. But when you ask questions that are not vague, what it does is it points you in the right direction. So I love how specific your question was, Darden. And I have an entire 27-minute training dedicated specifically to those questions. But in broad strokes, so if anybody wants the link to that, just be like, hey, I want just say 27-minute training in the comments and someone on the team will get it to you. But in the meantime, just to answer your question straight up, how do you create a coaching business without burning out? So the first thing, Darden, you want to do is you want to figure out what are the nuances of your fear, because you have a galloping fear of success right here. For sure, there's some part of you is self-sabotaging your efforts at the moment because you're scared that if you were to be successful, you would burn out. Look at the words you're using: burning out, sacrificing my well-being, and trying to do it all. There's a sense of, success is going to bring this incredible overwhelm and I'm going to lose control, right? Your subconscious really, really doesn't like that. So what we want to do is we want to simplify things. So what that looks like is very simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. So what you want to do is you want to decide, you want to get crystal clear on who it is you work with. You want to create something that is not one-to-one, because if you're stuck doing just one-on-one, then you can't scale it. You are going to hit burnout. You are going to hit overwhelm at some point, and everything rides on you. If something happens to you, if you need to take a vacation, there's no income, right? So that there's all kinds of problems. And I've talked about group versus one-on-one in a whole separate training. Now, what you also want to be doing is making sure that your program curriculum is designed in such a way that your clients have truly massive transformations, because the bigger the transformation is, the more you can afford to charge for it, because the more willing people will be to pay for it, because it's truly life changing, right? So really nailing what is the transformation that you create, what is the before and the after. So if you've ever looked at those weight loss pictures, right, on Instagram, you have the before picture where the person's like all chubby and sallow and they're looking really checked out from life, and then the after picture, they may not have a six-pack yet, but they look trim, they look fit, their clothes fit better, they look like they've lost years of their life, not just pounds of their body, right? What is the before and what is the after of your people? The more clear you are on this, the more we can bridge that. We can then design the program in that bridge sort of between the before and the after. This is what we do in Impact with Influence. And then when you're able to articulate that transformation, you can price it accordingly. And people will be like, you know what? I want that. I really, really want that. Right. And it's important to get clear on both the before and the after, because I've said this before, pain creates urgency, but it's bliss that creates permission to buy. Right. If you don't have a clear sense of what the opportunity is, people will not be able to give themselves permission. So broad strokes, what you want to do is create a hybrid program. So there's got group elements and one-on-one elements. So you're not sacrificing results in the name of profit. You don't want to do that, because that'll blow up in your face in a whole other way. Not fun, right? You want to do so group like hybrid, so it's scalable. You want to simplify your messaging and get crystal clear on exactly who your ideal clients are and exactly what the transformation is that you create. You want to price your program at a premium. So my definition of premium is at least $3,500. A lot of our clients charge anywhere from $3,500 all the way up to $30,000. Anywhere in that range, depending on the transformation you create, is going to be a premium. So now think about it. You don't have to sell that many people every month, that you don't have to pull on that many new clients in order to hit even your pretty expansive income goals. Does that make sense? When you have resources coming in, you're able to hire the right people. You're able to now structure a team. That's what I have. It's not just me. If I get sick tomorrow, or if I have to take, 2 weeks of vacation, this business will continue to run. Clients' needs will continue to get met. That's super duper important, because you can't truly have freedom if you're kind of always on call. And I know that in the very, very early days of my own journey on coaching, it felt that way, right? Like it's when you're always kind of, does that make sense? We're always kind of on call, because we're like, okay, we need this client to get results. We need this client to move forward. And it's you doing all the heavy lifting. If you don't have resources to hire A players, because A players are not cheap, right? Then you're not going to be able to get help and support when your business is bigger than you. It is in line with the depth of the work that you do. And it's resourced, right? You need to be able to resource your business so that it can provide both for you and for the clients that you serve. So that's kind of the short answer. You can also watch the 27-minute training where I break it down in further detail about each piece, etc. Does that make sense? Yeah, it's exhausting. There you go, right? When it's just you, that's the struggle. All right. So let's move on to the next question. Hopefully, Jordan, that answers your question. Sylvain asks how to set healthy boundaries. This is a great question. And in fact, somebody else, I believe Virginia, asked a similar question, which was, how do you not take on too much of your relating to internal energy, how to let go of clients' emotional pains and recharge after a call, and how to detach from their results. So like, how do you not take on your clients' both pain and angst or desire, and then how do you sort of like take a break and recharge after a call? These are all really great questions. So the first things first with healthy boundaries start at home, right? So if you're getting your fix of validation or significance, or you don't feel good enough without external validation, without your clients letting you know that you're good enough, then this is going to be a really difficult thing. So you're not going to fix it by getting your clients better results. That just feeds the frenzy, right? You can't do it by focusing on anybody other than yourself. So what you're going to have to end up doing, and believe me, I'm telling you this because I've been through it. So I'm not like some perfect person that had this figured out at birth. I really, really the opposite. Okay. I remember in the early days when people were getting crazy results, I felt like I was living on borrowed time. I literally felt like a total fraud. I was like, they're saying that I'm helping them, but I'm not sure it's me. I mean, I don't even know what it is. Maybe it's a fluke. I feel like, okay, I got away with it this time, but am I going to be able to consistently produce results? So if this is you, I just want you to know you're not alone. And this is a normal part of the growth process. So you're not doing anything wrong. You're not alone. Everybody goes through this. It's just that very few people talk about it. Very few people ever reveal that this is how it is. Okay. So when you're in that place, so one of the things we did, and well, I did in our program, as you probably already know if you followed me for any length of time, Impact with Influence was designed for me. I designed it for me. So our mindset coach, one of our mindset coaches, David, is my mindset coach. And I worked with him one-on-one to get to the root of this feeling of not enough. So one of the things that we encourage our clients to do, and we were literally talking about this on this week's group coaching call, is when you don't have the answer, right? And there are going to be many times, no matter how successful you get, no matter how big your business grows, no matter how many millions you make, no matter what you get figured out, there will always be plenty of stuff that you don't yet have the answer to. That's growth. That's life. Okay. The trick is really gauging when you're sitting in that place of not knowing, right? Where you're like, I don't know the answer. I have to figure this out. Oh my God, urgency, panic, remorse, whatever it is, right? All grief, disappointment, all of those anger, sadness, familiar, bitter feelings. You have to learn to sit with that, which is really hard to do. So you're literally sitting and you're feeling sad, you're feeling shame, you're feeling disappointment. And then you have to find a way to, and this is going to sound really cheesy, but it really works, is you find a way to say, I'm doing the best I can. Like imagine if you were a small child, right? And if you don't have children, imagine that you yourself as a small child. Speak to yourself the way that you would to a small child who's struggling, who's doing the absolute best that they can, but just has not figured it out yet. If there was a child wobbling around trying to walk, you wouldn't be like, come on, pull yourself together, do it better. Like your brother's walking already. You're not going to be saying that. You're going to be like, you're doing great. This is amazing. You're so courageous for even trying. Oh my God, you fell down. That must hurt. How courageous are you that you picked yourself up and you're willing to keep going? Do you need to rest? Rest. Think about all the ways that you would talk to a little child who's trying to walk. That's how you start talking to yourself. And this is a very, very interesting and difficult habit to create, because for the most part, most of us have a lot of negative chatter that we're not even aware of, where we're just like, man, I should have figured this out already. Everybody else is doing it. No. There's all of these different ways that we compare ourselves to people without knowing anything, without having any accurate information. I just want to point that out. We may have external metrics of success. We still don't know what the person's internal experience has been. Again, there would have been a time in my life where from the outside, I would have looked like I was absolutely crushing it. And technically I was. Clients were getting great results. We were making money. Business was growing. Team was, all of it was working great, but I felt like I didn't deserve any of it. I felt like I was not actually creating any of it. I felt like all of this was a fluke. And I made it all about me, which is what we tend to do when we have problems with this. So when you set healthy boundaries, first of all, you have to say, am I willing to act in my own best interests? What do I need right now? And sometimes when you ask that question, you really have to get still. Because what you think you need, like what your brain tells you, like, no, you need to work harder, you need to make money, you need XYZ. That's not helpful. That's not the actual answer. Your body will tell you the truth. And what you need to do is get still enough where your body's like, I'm really tired. I'm really tired. I just need to lie down. I need to stop for a second, right? Take that pause. If the pain or the fear or the shame or the disappointment is huge, then allow it to come in. Just be like, I am so disappointed in myself right now. Say it out loud. I know this makes you sound like you're cuckoo bananas. I can't tell you the number of walks I've taken where I go outside and I put my headphones in. I don't know why I do this, like anybody actually cares, but I'll put my headphones in and then I'll have a conversation with myself. But I pretend I'm having a conversation on the phone with somebody else. But really, I'm just talking to me. Okay? So you just know you can do that too. If you need to put your headphones in to feel a little bit less cuckoo, do that. But talk to yourself. Just be like, I see, like, I'm really disappointed. I'm really disappointed right now. I'm sad. I feel scared. I feel lost. Just naming it takes a lot of the emotional sting out of it. And then you can say, okay, right now I need to do this. Then start to review what is working, what has worked. This is a habit we really work quite hard to. Yeah, it's so true. This is a habit we work really hard to instill in our clients. Is like, what is working? We have a hashtag, it is working. And that's because this is a very deliberate practice. It is literally a practice where you look at, okay, this has worked. I'll give you an example. Recently, one of our clients hit a bit of a lull with her business. And this happens, okay? No matter how successful you are, no matter how great your messaging is, there will be shifts sometimes from time to time. There'll be a lull. What do you do? What do you do when there's that lull? Do you just throw up your hands? Do you say, it didn't work? No. When you have a success mindset, which is what we want to build with you in Impact with Influence, here's what you do. Here's what one of our clients did. She looked at all of the clients that she had worked with. So she had had a handful of clients that she had launched with her new premium program that we helped her design. She looked at them and she was like, wait a minute. Who I thought my clients were going to be are not who my best clients have ended up being. There are very significant differences between the guess I made and who I ended up attracting that I actually love working with. And then we started to drill down, and she brought this into Help Desk and we talked about it on a call. We started to drill down on what are the specifics about these people that they have in common. And we did not make the mistake of looking at the external stuff because they all looked quite different from each other. One was a coach about ADHD and one was a coach about something else, and one had a yoga practice and one had this and one had that, right? There were all of these different, they looked very different. But when we boiled it down, we looked at what do all of these seemingly different people have in common? And then we figured out that what they have in common is that all of them are sort of playing house to some extent in their business. They were all playing house in their business. They'd all designed a business with shoulds in mind, the way that people told them to. And none of them felt like they were really living in their zone of genius. So it was extra frustrating because they had some success and from the outside they looked successful, but that's a very lonely place to live, right? When you look successful, everybody's like, wow, look at you, you're doing really well, your business is picked up, and you're like, yeah, but this is not the freedom plan. Like, I'm not making the kind of money I want. I'm not working with the kind of people I want to do. And I'm not doing the work that I most want to do every day. And so having the courage to then course correct and having the tools and the processes with which to course correct, that's what our client helped them with. But we had to figure out what was that deep, deep internal problem that they solved, that she solved. And then immediately she put herself out there. She did 2 lives and she got 3 clients. Like, that's how that works. Does that make sense? So when it comes to boundaries, it's really about taking your energy back and being your own best client first. So Sylvain, that's my advice to you, is figure out, what do your needs come first? What do you need? What will make your well-being work better? Because when you're better resourced, you're going to be of better help. Does that make sense? Do you know what I mean? Like, you're going to do it better for everybody else when your own needs are being met. Otherwise, you're always going to be under-resourced, resentful, pissed off, blaming, shaming, a victim, etc. So, and Virginia asks, like, how do I cleanse myself after a call? I love that you asked this question because you are my sign today, Virginia, because David Boulay, who's our mindset coach, one of our mindset coaches on the team, he's creating a whole program on how to become an amazing mindset coach. Like, a lot of the techniques that he uses with our clients, the techniques that he's used with me that have completely changed my life, we're digging into this. And one of the things he's going to teach in the program, we're thinking of rolling it out sometime in November or December. and this is brand spanking new, we're going to teach people how to do this, is how to cleanse yourself after a call, how to just kind of take your, switch your energy, basically. So, Virginia, you asked two questions. One is, how do you let go of clients' emotional pains and recharge after a call? The first things first, you have to first start to love yourself. You have to start to trust yourself. When you trust yourself, what that does is it's practice where you have tried something on and seen how it feels. When now you can practice, you can take that practice and trust the client. I know this sounds counterintuitive, especially when somebody's really struggling. You can hold that space for them to be like, I know how hard this is. Tell me about it. Let them vent a little bit, hold space. Don't let them take it. Don't let them run away with it, because venting can get out of control really quickly. To be like, I hear that you're feeling this. What's underneath that? Go another layer deeper. What's underneath that? Go another layer deeper. Why is this so bad? What does this make you feel? What's the story that it makes you have about yourself, right? When you're holding space for that client, you're resourcing them to really just take a look. You're basically, the message you're sending them, which is the exact same message you've practiced sending yourself, is that you're okay even if you don't have the answer. You're okay even if you don't figure this out. You're okay even if this, whatever it is you're trying to fix, remains broken. You're okay. When people start to feel okay, their creativity, their innovation, their excitement, their inspiration comes back to the table. Now they're going to look at the problem a completely different way. Does that make sense? And that's the gift that you give your client. You're not there to fix it for them. You're there to help them get in touch with their own truth. And when you do it this way, you don't actually have to really recharge very much after the call, because the call itself will charge you. But let's say you've had a terrible call. One of the things that you can do, what I like to do is, I'll take my makeup off and I'll change my clothes, right? And so I'm just like, I'm washing away, and I'm deliberately kind of like visualizing washing away the energy. And I'm saying, hey, I send the client love, and I'm like, I'm sending you some energy. And then I'm making a clean break where you get to keep the pieces that are yours. You have a struggle. And then I look at, how does their struggle make me feel? Right. And then I feel my shame, my disappointment, my anger, my whatever resentment I have. We always ask, and this is how we train our team as well, where does this live in my house? Right? Where does this live in my house? In what way am I showing up with the same resistance? In what way am I showing up with the same stuckness? In what way am I showing up with the same guilt or blame or whatever it is that they're struggling with? And then I sit with that and I'm like, oh, they were sent for me to be able to examine this so I can release this in myself. When I feel like I've done something right, where I've helped myself or I've helped them, then I can let it go. Hopefully this helps. Does this make sense? Let me know if this is helping in the comments. Amazing. Somebody asked, continuing Darden's question, how do you avoid burnout as you are building up? In other words, in the earlier stages. So again, this is something we help our clients with. First of all, creating simple systems. A lot of overachievers with big ambitions, we tend to overcomplicate the process. We tend to add too much too quickly. I can't tell you the number of people we've worked with where they're at the very beginning. They are just designing their program. And they're like, how do I hire a team? And I'm like, you don't need a team yet. Right thing at the right time. I'm like, we will get to that when that becomes your problem. Right now, you have a very different problem. So let's keep all our resources to fix this problem here. So getting clear on, are you fixing the right problem? Are you fixing the most immediate problem? And in fixing the problem, is it creating the runway for you to have that better problem? If that's the case, that's not a bad thing. Does that make sense? You have to think about it. Like, if you want to hire a team, great. Are you creating a situation where you have more clients or whatever it is, where that's going to lead you to needing a team? If so, then you're solving problems in the right order. A lot of people think, oh, no, I want to do it in such a way that it doesn't lead to the next problem. No, actually, you want to have the next problem. That's the funny thing about that. I've realized that was a huge, huge switch for me. I thought winning or being smart or figuring it out meant avoiding problems. And maybe I'm an underachiever, okay? So I'll put that on the table. Maybe I'm an underachiever and maybe you guys are way smarter than I am, and that is totally possible. But for me and people who are wired like me, I find that I have to be willing to embrace the next problem. So now when I have problems that literally I prayed for 2 years ago, 2 years ago, I was like, I hope I have this problem. Like, I want to be in such a position where I'm like, crap, we need to hire more coaches yesterday. That's a great problem to have, right? Like, if some of you who are solopreneurs at this point, you're like, man, I wish I had enough clients where I needed to hire coaches yesterday. Yes, exactly. So stop trying to avoid problems further on. Just solve the problem that you have in front of you. Hopefully that helps. Okay.
We had
What's
a
the next
question.
question?
I'm sorry. We had a question like that, a little bit similar. Where I think it's a connecting topic. Where
When do you decide? Oh, Mayuri, great question.
yeah,
When do you decide to add another coach to your business? So, great question. I would say that we decide when we see, like, we started to get really good at predicting when things are expanding, right? Does this mean we always get it right? Absolutely not. Does this mean sometimes this has happened to us? I mean, when you've been in the business a long time, this is inevitable, right? You're going to hire slightly before you need something. You're going to hire right when you need somebody, and then the demand will drop off a little bit, and you're like, crap, what the hell happened here? But here's what I know, Mayuri, is when you hire the right people bring the kind of energy and inspiration that will generate work for them. So I've started to trust when I hire the right person and I hire somebody who fills me with excitement for the work and they're super passionate about the work. I'm like, okay, clients are coming. Like, the work is coming. So when do I hire? It's when I'm getting to a point where I'm at probably, so you never want to work at more than 100% capacity. You have to decide and define what your 100% capacity is, right? So for me, I work 4 days a week, right? And I don't work more than 7 hours a day because I just don't have the mental capacity for it. I will go out and take a walk and think about things. Absolutely. That doesn't count in my 7 hours. But when I'm actually at my desk, it's probably even closer to 6, quite frankly. So it's like 6 and a 4. Those are my work days. I don't want to have, that's my 100% capacity. There will be times where you're required to flex and get to 120% capacity, right? Where you add that fifth day. I did this recently. We were expanding our team. I was in training. I was helping train our enrollment team. That was required. That's part of the business. It's the phase. I go through it and then I'm out. I'm back out. Tomorrow's my off. Yay. So what you want to do is when you notice that you're crossing the mark with 100% capacity, right then you want to be thinking, okay, I need to hire somebody. And a really interesting thing that I have learned over the years is to kind of list out the itty bitty tasks. Instead of looking at it as a job, look at it as a series of tasks. This is a big piece of learning that, man, no one's ever taught me this. This is something that I stumbled onto from trial and error. We used to hire positions, right? We used to hire a job. And then we would create a job description that, yes, included some tasks. But then we were like, this person takes on this whole juggernaut of things. Now, when we hire, we make a very exhaustive list of what are all the itty bitty tasks. What often happens when we make that list is we're able to delete, which means just absolutely get rid of certain things that are inefficiencies. We're able to automate, in other words, use technology to solve the problem instead of a person. And then the last in order is delegate, is where we hire somebody else to do it. Does that make sense? So what ends up happening is you end up having a much more streamlined job description that you can afford faster when you do it this way. I hope that made sense. Okay. All right. Yes, permission granted, Renee. All right, Amanda Jewell asks, what percentage of coaching is hands-on, which is face-to-face, phone calls, etc., versus just giving your student materials, homework, and resources? So what she says in her question is she tends to spend too much time with clients and it's hard to step back and let them be or give them stuff to do. Now, Amanda, this is why we spend so much time on curriculum design and side impact with influence when we work with clients. Because here's the thing, if we were to work together and we were to help you design your curriculum, what we would look at is we would look at what are the mini breakthroughs, what are the specific milestones over time that compound to the big breakthrough that you want to create, right? Because there's a bunch of little baby steps that need to be taken, and there are certain outcomes, mini outcomes that need to be reached that then add up to the next outcome, that then add up to the next outcome, that add up to the final transformation. When you're clear on what they are, then you can automate some of the processes. You can give them thinking exercises. So in our program, we have a bunch of videos and templates and audios and thinking exercises that we get our clients to do. The way I look at it is this allows us to go at the pace that the client brings, right? So we can go when if someone's a rank beginner, then we can go real slow, because when they do the thinking exercise, that gives us a clear diagnostic into how far they've figured things out already. So we can play with the beginners at the beginner level, the intermediate people at the intermediate level, and then we can absolutely zoom ahead with the advanced people, because they're going to be like, I've figured all of this out. I've done all of this. This is crystal clear to me. And I'm like, awesome. We're just going to progress you right away because you already got this figured out. Let's find out where you're stuck. It's going to be a different place. So you have to think about what can they do. Again, what this says to me, Amanda, is that you're taking on too much responsibility. And typically when we take on too much responsibility, it's because we don't trust ourselves and we're not good enough. We don't feel good enough without fixing. Like if I'm not saving somebody, then I'm not good enough. If I'm not changing somebody's life, then I'm not good enough. Well, that if you have that, no amount of work that you do is ever going to feel good enough, because the work is not going to solve the issue. You have to work on feeling good enough. That's why we do deep mindset work in conjunction with curriculum design, because if we can soothe you and give you the tools to like really resource yourself internally, then you can come to the table willing and able to be with somebody else's pain, somebody else's stuckness, somebody else's resistance, somebody else's angst. You can hold space for them. And when you can hold space, I'll tell you what holding space means. And that's a whole other topic that we can maybe get into in a different live. Holding space is not about just being like, tell me about that. Yeah, how does that go? And how does that feel? Wow, that must be really bad. It's not that. It's actually, that's holding space the way you would do for a friend for free. Okay. And if you're sitting there thinking, well, that's great, Geeta, but people have paid me a shit ton of money and I need to get them results. So, you know what? This whole holding space bullshit ain't going to fly. I get it. People pay me a shit ton of money too. Here's how you hold space. You don't do it that friend way. That friend way is awesome for your spouse or your friend or your kids or whatever. When somebody's paid you a bunch of money and you're actually there to help them solve the problem, you have to, when they talk about the problem, you have to be able to look at that problem because you bring the gift of emotional neutrality, right? You're coming in so calm. You're coming as calm as possible, right? Obviously, no one's perfect, but you're coming in much calmer than them about their problem, right? Let's just establish that no matter how not calm you are, chances are they're way less calm than you because it's their problem and they're super emotionally invested. So you bring the contagion of your calm to the conversation. Now, as they talk, you're listening very intently. And this is exactly what we model on our calls. I'm listening very intently. I always stop our calls and be like, see, you see what I just did? Here's what I heard. Here's why I did that. Okay. And I teach our clients how to do this in the program, because then what you're going to do is you're telling me this. Let's talk about that specific piece. So now instead of them like talking and talking and talking and going round and round and round, inventing, you've gone and crispened it. You've made it crystal clear. What is this problem? And maybe you peel that one layer off and like, what's underneath that? That's really significant here. What is the problem actually? And now the client's going to be engaged. Now the client's like really interested. Your curiosity will rub off on them. Your calm is rubbing off on them. That's holding space in this context. Now you're resourcing the client with your calm, not with advice, not with answers, but with that incredible gift of attention and curiosity where you're really looking at it and they can see it now. What ends up happening is there's a telepathy that forms in this space. Even on a group call, I've done this. I do this every week on a group call. There's a telepathy that forms where you can now, they're sort of seeing through your eyes and they're looking at the problem and they're like, I've never seen it that way before. Now I see. And now that Now that there's an openness and there's a calm, they're going to be a lot less resistant to any advice that you do give. Because sometimes, yes, you're going to give them advice. You are going to give them strategy. You are going to tell them what to do step by step. However, they're not going to be so resistant to it. And sometimes you're going to say, so what do you think is the right step? And then you hold silence for them to feel it, to hear it, and to know for themselves what their truth is. That's how you do that. I hope this answered. Okay. All right. What's next? Whew. How are we doing for time? I think we're good. Okay. We have maybe a couple of more questions to go. How is group coaching different than one-on-one? Okay. So how is group? I've done a whole detailed live on this, and I even posted the link recently. So go, scroll the feed because I posted a link on this recently. Group is different because of that contagion factor in many ways. So if you have somebody who's, I'm not going to ever say group is better than one-on-one. I think hybrid is better than both group and one-on-one. So I'm a firm believer in hybrid. That's what Impact with Influence is. There are certain sessions that you do one-on-one. All the mindset sessions are done one-on-one. And then we have our group calls twice a week, right? Because we're doing it with this 360, and then we have one-on-one in help desk, which is our written platform. So there's just a lot of different types of support in different formats. That works really, really well, because when you're on a group call, here's what especially when you're working with people in a trauma-informed way, right? So if people are coming to you with trauma, which is frankly everybody, right? Maybe you don't work with a subset of people who have deep trauma, like sexual abuse, childhood neglect, all of these other things. But almost I've never met a human yet that doesn't have some form of trauma. Some people have very little trauma. Some people have a shit ton of trauma, but everybody brings trauma to the table. So what I love about group coaching and the group format, especially when combined with the intimacy of one-on-one, in the one-on-one session, you're going in and you're holding space and you're really picking up the energy, the nuances, the tone, the physicality, all of those things. Yes, even through Zoom. If you've got video enabled, you can pick up all these nuances, right? And then when you put them in a group setting, they're able to examine. What I love about group, especially the way that we teach it, is that they're now hearing a version, either their own question or a version of their problem being discussed with a variety of different personality types, resistances, et cetera. They're now able, what is the hardest thing with trauma and what is the hardest thing with people in resistance to do is to give them a sense of control, right? When you're working with somebody who's bringing trauma to the table, the most important thing is to have them feel in control of how deep do they want to go. Because if they're pulling back and they're like, whoa, I'm getting overwhelmed, my central nervous system is shutting down, that's fair. And you need to be able to acknowledge that, and you need to be able to make space for that. What is beautiful about a group session is that the person can choose to tune in and tune out, and they get to control the intensity of their experience because the focus is not directly on them. So I love group for that reason, because it allows people to have breakthroughs that you just can't create for them in one-on-one. It allows them to taste the breakthrough in a very safe, kind of low-key way. And if they're liking it, then they can go deeper, and then they can go deeper, and then they can ask. And then, when they're like, oh my God, I'm ready for this, then they bring it to that one-on-one session and we can really go for it. Does that make sense? So hopefully that answers your question. I had one last question that I think Alana sent in via email. I mean, we had a bunch of email questions. I don't even know if I got to all of them. Okay, so what I saw from email was she asked, there were two questions. Alana asked, what do you do when you have a friend who is wanting coaching for free? So how many of you can relate to this, where you feel like your boundaries are being transgressed? It feels like it's a similar thing to the boundaries question, right? Your boundaries are being transgressed. They're they're reaching out and they're basically feeling entitled to your coaching because they're like, well, the example she gave me was like, it's kind of like you're a landscaper and they need landscaping. So they're like, well, you're my friend. So, and you know how to landscape. So like landscape for me for free, right? So here's the thing. This doesn't happen to me. Like never. It never happens to me. And the reason it doesn't happen to me, I think, is because I have gotten to that place where I'm able to calmly, without blame, shame, or victimization, put my needs first. So, and I was not born here. I just want to let you know that I did not live here. I did not grow up on this street of like being okay. I grew up on a different street where I was like, if I don't save you, then I'm worth nothing. And if I can't help you, then what the hell is my life even worth these days, right? So I used to live on that street. So I think what really helps is, I think the problem here is that you're not sure how to set the boundary without harming your relationship. So the very first thing you got to do, Alana, is examine your own fear. What are you afraid of? Use the clarificator. If I were to use step 3 of the clarificator, so if you don't know what the clarificator is, somebody will post the link for you. Just ask, say, please tell me about the clarificator in the comments, and somebody will reach out and help you. Okay, it's a free tool that I created. It's free for you to use. Step 3, it talks about success criteria. Like if I were to set healthy boundaries, I fear that. Like if you say it in the affirmative, if I were to have healthy boundaries, I fear that. Write down everything that comes up. And yes, you have to write it with a pen and a piece of paper, because that is what works, friends. Typing it doesn't work quite as well, and thinking it absolutely does not work, because your brain is filled with little rabbit holes that it's going to distract you with so that you don't see what you're actually afraid of. Your hand, though, when you give it a pen and you write it long form, it doesn't matter how untidy it is, it bypasses the sensor in your mind, and all of your fears come out, and you're going to see what your fears are. Then you address your fears and you say, okay, how can I? And then you do step 4 and 5 of the clarificator, right? So step 4 is where you're resourcing yourself. You're like, okay, how would I meet these needs? Thank you, subconscious, for bringing up these needs. I'm scared that I might lose this friend. Now that you have language, because you have languaged it and articulated it, and you're clear, that's the problem. You're not clear yet. When you're clear about the boundary, then you can come to your friend and say, hey, sounds like you really need a lot of help, and I cannot imagine how hard this is for you. I totally understand how hard it is, because I've been through something like this. This is exactly what I help people with. And I'm happy to hang out from time to time and to support you as a friend. But what I'm noticing is right now, the kind of support you need is far more than any friend can offer, right? So maybe you want to get a therapist, maybe you want to get a coach. I'm not saying you need to work with me. Maybe you need to work with somebody else, but you need to work with somebody who can really get in there and work with you, because just venting isn't going to solve your problem. Otherwise it would have already. So you're not making this about you, and you're saying, I want to help you, and I'm coming to you with this clarity that has become apparent to me, and like, tell me what to do to support you, because I can't do this. I don't think I can do this as a friend. What would you like to do? And now you put it on her, right? And now she gets to be empowered to make the right decision for her, whatever that looks like. And if she's really like, if her nose gets bent out of shape by something that vulnerable and open, she's probably not really a friend. The end. That would be my thought. So tell me if that makes sense to you. All right. I think that's pretty much it. I think do we have time for one last question, or are we going to wrap? Are we going to wrap? I think we should wrap.
I don't know. I think we should wrap.
Oh, no, yeah. I think we should wrap. All right. If you have any more questions, if I've missed, somebody said I'm 26 and I'm still a virgin. What's wrong with me? Probably nothing. Maybe the reason you're still a virgin is that you're extremely discerning. And I would lean into that, and I would get crystal clear about what it is you want in a partner and what you're willing to bring to the table, because having or not having your virginity really is not a metric for success. Really. Not in life.
On that note.
Yes, you're welcome. All right. See you guys next Thursday.